right, I hereby call to order the 2,295th meeting of the Milwaukie City Council. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, our first item tonight is a report on the Milwaukie Center, which will be led by Siri Bernard and Marty Hanley.
And Junia.
And Junia.
Smashing your party.
I'd like to also introduce Junia Stevens. She's the Friends of the Milwaukie Center Development Director. Oh, Junia?
Okay. Okay, can you see me here? Looks like I have all this stuff. I'm gonna just put this down.
Yeah.
Okay. First of all, thank you, counselors, for giving us some time to report on what's going on at the Milwaukie Center. First of all, Happy Valley's still with us. I'm sure you all know that, but it's exciting for us that they're going to stay. I'm going to tell you the Milwaukie Center mission: to be a link to resources for older adults and their families, and a place for the community to gather, grow, and contribute. So I wanted to say that, first of all, I'm going to start with some of the things that we've done this year to the building itself. And that is fix some breezeway blowers. I hope all of you have been there and you'll know what I'm talking about here. We've finished the restrooms, and so there's no problems with them anymore. We got a new generator, which is important when people come and need to be at the Milwaukie Center to either keep warm or keep cold. And a new air conditioning in the kitchen. We fixed it up a little with a new awning and new Wi-Fi routers, which was very much needed. One big thing is our board has approved a name change for the Milwaukie Center. What we've approved and is going through the different stages to get it completely approved is the Milwaukie Community Center. The reason we're doing that is because we have so many classes for all ages. It's true the Milwaukie Center started out for seniors, pretty much exclusively. And then more and more programs were brought in to cover the different generations. Now we have a lot of programs for kids and a lot of classes and other programs for everybody, families, all kinds of people. And we think that the Milwaukie Community Center shows that there's room for everybody and something for everybody. And I have to be honest, at first I was reluctant because I'm an advocate for seniors. That's what I'm about. And I thought, well, if you change it, then it's going to not reflect the seniors. But once I thought about it and saw how our people work at it and all of the factors that go into it, and excuse me if I'm a little sappy here, but I think it's like a family. When you get a new baby in the family, you don't stop loving the rest of the family. Your heart just grows, and your time grows to take in everybody. And I think that's the situation we have here. We're not going to stop taking care of our seniors and all of the wonderful senior services we have. We're just going to continue to grow our other services for other generations. And we have a new director of our Friends of the Milwaukie Center, and I'd like to introduce her. This is Junia Stevens.
Thank you. Very good. Hello, and thank you. Good evening, and thank you for allowing us here today, and so good to meet you all. I have met Wilda, and we've been trying to find a spot to to have a moment to visit and have yet to do so. My name is Junia Stevens. I'm the new Director of Development for the Friends of the Milwaukie Center since March. For those of you who are not familiar with Friends, we are the fundraising arm of the Milwaukie Center. For those of you not familiar with the Milwaukie Center, we are a community center that caters to seniors. We are expanding and growing, but our hearts are still with the senior population of North Clackamas County. City of Milwaukie owns our building, as you well know, so we are one big happy family. 4 main areas of the Milwaukie Center that my organization supports. The Meals on Wheels, which is the largest in Oregon. We are an independent Meals on Wheels program. We do not get any funding from the MOW People ads that you see or any of those organizations that fund the Washington County and Multnomah County. So my job is to raise enough money to make up the difference between the $3 a meal that the government subsidizes and the $7 meal, the $7 cost of that meal. So we serve 220 people a day, 65,000 people a year.
And that's the largest program in Oregon?
Single standing.
Yeah?
So like the Meals on Wheels people serves a huge county, but as far as a meal site,
For a single site? Wow. Okay.
Yeah, and the volunteers are wonderful. We adore them and can't survive without them. Our second program that we have is our social services branch, if you will, and we provide many opportunities for the senior community to get respite care, to help with early dementia programs, family caregiver programs. And so my job and our fundraising job is to raise funds to support those programs and make up the difference, the gap, and grow. And one of my large goals for being in this job is to really bring the fundraising efforts up to the Meals on Wheels level for our senior or our social services programs, help people pay a plumber if they have broken plumbing and bills or that, just help them any way we can. Our recreation department plans and executes all sorts of wonderful classes, and the Friends of the Milwaukie Center helps to fund that for people that can't, a scholarship program for people that can't afford to take the classes, and we also pay for the teacher stipends as well. And then our transportation department takes our wonderful seniors in the area to grocery store, to the center, or to doctor appointments, and a lot of those are unable to pay the small fee to get on the bus, so we fund that as well. So we have many fundraisers in place already. I am looking to add a few more, and just kind of switch things up a little bit. Currently, I'm working on Clackamas County on Tap and Uncorked, which is our local brewery and craft winery and brewery and spirits distilleries, and that's September 7th. And so it's our 3rd year, and I'm hoping it reflects what perennials do. When the first year they sleep, and the second year they creep, and the 3rd year they leap. And this is our 3rd year, so hopefully we'll be leaping, and would love to have involvement with City of Milwaukie. I was speaking with Marty and Siri a moment ago and said when I was pounding the pavement up and down Main Street here, looking for sponsors and talking to owners of business, 9 out of 10 did not know where the Milwaukie Senior Center is, or Milwaukie Community Center is. And that was frustrating for me. It was like, okay, here's my new goal. So I would really like to establish and grow and make the city of Milwaukie more part of our family and work together. So I hope to see you all at Clackamas County on Tap and Quirk, September 7th. We have shifts available if you want to volunteer. And thank you for your time this evening. I appreciate it. And my door is always open if you want to have a coffee and have any ideas for me, certainly a tour. I would love to know you all better. Thank you so much.
Do you have any questions?
I do. Is the Friends Group a 501c3?
Yes.
It is, okay.
Yes.
And do you have a website or social media presence?
Yes.
You do? Okay.
Yes.
So I do a lot of Facebook for a couple of sites that share things around town, and I always go to the Milwaukie Center's site to see what there might be that needs to be promoted, but I hadn't seen the Friends Group
Okay.
site, so.
It is a bit of a work in progress. We're
Yeah.
manipulating things and
Okay.
making sure. Clackamas County, clackontap.com is where we've been concentrating on that since I've
Okay.
gotten there. And I have, looked certainly and studied the Milwaukie Center
Okay.
site, and
Okay.
it does need work, so maybe I'll give you a call.
Okay, okay. Yeah, it was I would say over the winter, it seemed to be pretty active and a lot of stuff on it, and it seems to have dropped off some this spring and
We've had
summer.
a lot of change, nearly a whole new board and
Yeah.
new person in me.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
so I'm sure it was noticeable.
Yeah. And there are a couple of events coming up where, to your point that the businesses didn't know where the Milwaukie Center is, you might want to have a presence at First Fridays in downtown Milwaukie, and you might want to have a presence at our upcoming Carefree Sundays event on August 4th, which is a bike and pedestrian event that's closer to where the Milwaukie Center is and involves a lot of neighborhoods.
Yes.
It won't help you with downtown per se, but it
No,
will
thank
help you
you.
with neighborhood
Very good.
visibility.
Thank you. I appreciate both, yes.
So I like the idea of the name change. Are you through the process with that? I think, doesn't that have to come through the city and through the
Oh, yeah.
DAB?
So
And back to the Board of County
So it's
Commissioners?
been, first it started in the CCAB, and then it got approved, so now it has to go through the District Advisory Board, and there's a process of forms, and there's also a process of forms for the city of Milwaukee.
That's what I thought. I just wanted to double check
Yes,
on that.
so it's
I
not
recall when
near
we-
official, or this information hasn't been released to the public or anything, but
Yeah.
Don't tell
Sorry?
Siri
if you're
anything.
complaining, no. So, that's
Well,
what
Well,
it
one
excited
good way to
about
do
it.
it is announce it to the world. I just recall when we had to do that, when we changed Riverfront Park to Milwaukie Bay Park. So I was thinking that
Oh,
that
yeah.
same process needs to
Oh,
needs
yeah.
to occur. So at least now we'll have a heads up
Yep.
on it.
And we're coming upon our 40th anniversary at the Milwaukie Center in 2020. So the whole thing's going to hopefully be kind of tied together as a, one grand celebration.
Nice. Yeah.
We'll see where that goes, but it's starting, yeah.
We're revamping our newsletter, which the Friends of Milwaukie also pays for, so I raise funds for that. And we're hoping to launch when the name change and 40th anniversary, and just kind of do it all at once, have one big party.
That's
Are
the
you,
plan. We'll see.
Like rebranding with a new logo or anything with the name change?
For the,
or-
well,
We
as the
haven't really
Milwaukie
talked
Center
about it.
doesn't even really have a logo.
Oh,
Yeah, we'll
As
have to
part of the
talk about
Parks
that.
District, of course, we're going to stick with that logo, but it's sort of a rebranding, yes.
Good. We'll look forward to that.
All right.
As will
Right.
we.
Thank you.
Very much.
Thank you for your
Thank you
time.
for the billboard.
Yeah. We'll have to make work for Junia now.
Yeah.
Thank you, Wilda.
So just to put in a plug, I've been to the on Tap and on Corked the last 2 years, and Kendra has been one of the volunteers serving there, and it's a lot of fun. It's got great danceable bands and a lot of yummy food to eat and interesting things to test and taste, and it was a great event. So I strongly encourage people to check it out.
Thank you. And this year we've spent a good deal of money, quite a bit more than in the past on our bands. So we're really kind of.
Wow. Cool.
We'll see you all there.
And we'll
All right.
Thank you.
All right, next up is our consent agenda, which includes the minutes of the May 21st, 2019 work and regular sessions, the June 4th, 2019 work and regular sessions, the June 11th, 2019 study session. A resolution in support of a co-sponsored application with Clackamas County redesignating the North Urban Clackamas County Enterprise Zone, and a resolution authorizing the city manager to negotiate terms for the purchase of a new city hall. Does any member of council wish to remove an item from the consent agenda?
No.
I will entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I move to approve the consent agenda as written.
I'll second it.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the consent agenda. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? None heard. It passes unanimously.
So we do have several for audience participation.
Okay.
Figure out
Audience participation. This is the part of the agenda during which council will hear community member statements regarding city business. Those wishing to speak must fill out a yellow speaker registration card available on the table in the hall and identify agenda item number 4, audience participation. As council has other business items on the agenda this evening, speakers will be limited to 3 minutes each. Because the information provided during the public comment may be new to some councilors, the city manager will respond at the next council meeting to those comments that require follow-up. Before we begin, are there any follow-up reports from the June 18th audience participation, Ms. Over?
A few weeks ago, the council heard from a constituent about creating an allowance for open containers citywide or at least throughout the downtown zone. I've talked to staff. They have significant concerns that this could lead to dangerous situations for those imbibing and for the community. We would recommend not taking such a move, but if council would like to discuss this further, we can. And so we did want to give you just a moment to know we did look at it. We did have this discussion, but staff is not recommending it at this time.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks.
All right. Start with Heather Sparks, is that correct? Okay, Heather, come on up.
Well, actually, could I trade my speaking tone with these women and follow them after your initial?
Sure, who
We didn't fill out the cards right now, so. Oh, okay. I thought you had a petition. We do have a petition.
So a lot of this is happening away from the microphone, and I want to make sure that we're getting it captured. Can I make recommendation that you actually go fill out a form if you'd like to speak, and that we go to the next speakers and come back to this topic?
Sure.
Does that work?
That's fine.
All right.
Do you want to fill out some statements?
So Lynn.
Hi, everyone. I'm Lynn Davis with Healthy Democracy. You've heard from me not very long ago, I think, about progress on the Milwaukie Citizens Jury, on council compensation, and this is just sort of an informal presentation on our progress. Given that our deadline for responses is tomorrow, and then we're hoping to do a selection event on Thursday. However, our response rate has been quite low. It's been about half of our previous lowest ever response rate, which could be for a number of reasons. This project had a couple of different things about it. It was a pilot project, so we were testing a couple of new things. One of them was that we did it over 2 weekends. We decided 2 weekends rather than 4 days all clustered together, and 2 weekends in August and in Oregon are pretty valuable. And the other thing is, because we were trying to capture folks who were under 18, we didn't, or not registered to vote, we didn't put names on the mailings because we didn't have names. Used addresses, residential addresses, which also may contribute to people not opening the letter. In any case, the impact of that is that we may not meet demographic targets that we want to meet in order to be reflective of the city, which I know is important to you and very important to us, sort of the point of what we do. So I wanted to just sort of briefly tell you what we might not meet, and two, that if we don't, and that's very possible, we'll see by tomorrow, who knows, maybe we'll get a flood at the last minute, that we have talked about moving or postponing the event actually until the fall, which would give more time to do some additional outreach, send another mailing, do some school-specific outreach to get younger folks. So that's in the cards. And one of those lower demographic categories, which I feel like was important to you when we first discussed this, was getting young people involved. And there's so far nobody on the list who's under the age of 28. So that's a concern, and obviously doesn't meet a lower age category. We're also missing folks at lower educational attainment by several spots. And those are both areas that are normally very low response rates. It's just when we have a higher overall response rate, those obviously get filled. But since we've had only a 1% response rate so far, they haven't been filled. So that's the other categories are actually looking quite good. Political party, gender, race, ethnicity actually has come through a little bit today. We were worried about that one. So it's still conceivable that we can make it, but wanted to let you know the possibility that it might get postponed for the benefit of accurate representation.
So you want to put a pitch to anybody out there who's
Yes, absolutely. If you're watching and you've got a little envelope in the mail and then a postcard later, or seen an ad online, please respond. And oh, thank you. Here it is. Here's the postcard that you might have gotten last weekend. So please respond to the letter. Go to the link on the postcard, and we'll put you on the list for your chance to be part of this really unique public engagement opportunity.
So are you looking for input about whether to postpone it to the fall so that you can get more of a diversity of age and
Education level?
and education level? Yeah, I forgot the other thing. Angel. And perhaps there might also be more of, more minorities that go, oh yeah, they really do want this to be diversified. Let me think about this and send something in. Because trying to get people during the summertime, especially younger people, college or high school students, and 2 weekends of the month of August could possibly be a bit difficult.
For sure.
It happens, thinking back on it.
Absolutely, yeah. We thought that too. I mean, we'd originally planned 2 weekends thinking our normal method is to do 4 straight days, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, when we do state level citizens initiative reviews, and we always do those in August. So we didn't really think anything of doing a program in August, but that's a little bit of a different situation. And 4 straight days actually may be more manageable for folks than 2 separate weekends. That might be what's happening, or it might be something else. We're not sure, but yeah, in retrospect, yeah.
I mean, personally, I'd rather have it be more successful as far as the diversity and that than to, kind of just go with what we have, even though it doesn't represent the community at large. But that's my personal thinking.
Yeah, I think that was
We
I
all
don't- I
work.
don't think-
important to
yeah.
all of us.
Yeah.
I'm not hearing Lynn say that that's even an option.
Yeah.
Yeah, that wouldn't meet our values either, so.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely not. Yeah, that's literally the reason why we do what we do in the way that we do it, is to try to get sort of accurate representation reflective of whatever community we're working in, so, yeah.
So we'll update you when we have an answer, and we'll be in touch.
Yeah.
Thank you.
But
Yeah.
it sounds
Thanks,
like,
Lynn.
everybody would be certainly satisfied if you postponed it and reached in different ways that other demographic.
Well, I appreciate that. Thank you. Appreciate your support.
Yeah,
Oh,
thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks for the update.
Yeah, for sure. All right, take care.
All right,
You're welcome.
Donna Smith. Sure. So give your names for the record, please,
I'm Donna Smith.
when you get in front of the microphone.
I hate microphones. Okay, so I'm Donna Smith.
I'm Molly Thornley.
We live in the Ardenwald neighborhood. We recently, from my neighbor, was brought to our awareness that the cottage clusters were being that a cottage cluster was being put in next to our house. This is before we realized that it wasn't a completed study yet, but we realize that at this point now. But we did, in the process of that, start talking to our neighbors about the cottage cluster situation, and came up with that we really wanted to have a voice in this infill that we're putting into our communities. And not necessarily because it's next door to me either. I'm very aware of that property because I farmed that property. I knew what that property was about. And to see it go to a situation where there's actually no green space whatsoever, kind of like is blowing my mind. But I know that now it's a study. It's not a firmed up thing that that's what's going to happen next door. But we do want to have a voice in what that has to say. I did go immediately to my neighbors and started talking. And right now we're at 70 signatures in our neighborhood. Every single house is saying, we want a voice, we're concerned. Don't put these things in without us knowing what's going on. So that's where we stand with it. I did learn a lot last night by coming to the open house, and actually met with David Levitan a little bit. Actually, we cornered him for a while. And that was very informative as far as the fact that we thought that the zoning was automatic, that this is, that it was just going to be utilized, set to form these clusters, and there was actually no inputs from the neighborhoods. It was just going to be kind of like slid in. This bothered me. So we're now realizing that we backed it down a little bit. We realize that we do have a voice. We do have a way of joining in on those as soon as the committees are going to be formed, where we will be able to also be able to work with the zoning or rewording is the way he put it, on that. So infill's fine. I don't have a problem with infill or growth in our community. That's not my issue. My issue really is the infrastructure that supports the growth that we're doing. And our particular neighborhood, if we were to take that exact study would show you the parking situation would never be an able thing. In front of that house, there is actually only 4 parking spaces. That's it. We realize that these are being formed to be partially bike communities as well as regular family communities. But there's also a lot of issues around that. Our neighborhood doesn't have the support of sidewalks. We have a thoroughfare already on Harvey, which is a big issue. So Johnson Creek, it overflows onto Harvey. It's a direct line to get to all the other arteries in the city. Our roads over there are not in good condition. We don't have, the sewer system, the water system, the storm, all of that. What is going to happen? We're not talking it just for 13 houses, because we're also doing the Albertsons, behind Albertsons housing, the housing on 32nd Street, the infill with the cottage clusters or possibly triplexes, duplexes, whatever. So I guess what we wanted the city to know tonight, or at least I did, is that I would like to have more of a say, and I'm sure our community, because every single one of these people that signed knew nothing of what we're doing. Nobody knew anything about the study that was going on. That, to me, is needing to happen. We need to find a way that we communicate it better to our neighbors, what's happening.
We'd love ideas, because we've had 3 open houses on this subject. We've had it before council.
We only had one open house.
And
No, there was also the open house for the actual cottage cluster study, and then there was an open house for the comp plan process. It was the housing portion that talked about cottage clusters.
But the message hasn't gotten out to us, excuse me.
I know, but this is more why I'm asking. So it's in the pilot, it's on our council meetings, it's on our council agendas, it's on the the planning commission's agendas. I mean, I'm trying to think of, other than walking up and knocking on your door and saying, we're talking about this piece of code, which obviously we can't do to 10,000 houses.
Right.
How would you like, what is our best way to get to you?
Well, our neighborhood, we've become accustomed to paper mailings because we've had several ADUs in our neighborhood, and other people adding on I'm sure you probably know about Perry's house on the corner with the extra story, blah, blah, blah. So, I mean, we've got numerous paper mailings whenever something is going on regarding the properties in any fashion. So,
So that's what, I mean, that's the pilot, is a paper mailing that comes to you once a month.
So that
And it's
also,
talked about this process. So there is no proposed development anywhere.
not at this point, we realize that now.
This is just a study to figure out how they could work, what kinds of areas, what kinds of density in those areas, what kind of parking ratios, what kind of green space requirements, all of those things. Those are things we're studying. And
okay,
this has been
well,
a
that's great. We'd like to
9-month
be in
process
on
or
it.
a year-long process.
So one other thing that we did notice that when we did go researching it is that when you're saying that we were able to, it's everywhere, it's listed under acronyms, SAG, meeting number 3, number 2, number 1. When I look at that, I don't know what SAG stands for. I had to research that it was a stakeholders advisory group. That's how I found the information that I researched to find out what the project was about. So with an acronym in there, that doesn't do anybody any good. A comprehensive plan last night, comprehensive plan, what is the comprehensive plan? So the lay people, you guys may have that information set in your minds what that is. Lay people, such as myself, may not understand what a comprehensive plan is and what I do understand what a study is. I do get that. But I also understand that during that process, there was a lot of, for us, a lot of confusion as to, is it happening? Is it not happening? What is going on? Especially because the neighbor next door was the one that actually said, this house will be knocked down in 1 year and we will have 13 houses put on this. Excuse me, that's gonna put a little panic into the neighborhood. What we did is we researched it, we found out this information, we came together all within 2 weeks, came to the open house and now is here tonight. So our group of people in our neighborhood, our neighbors, all want to be a part of whatever is going to happen with this with going forward in the infill process. That means we want to know, is it triplexes, is it duplexes? Why are we going for 13 houses on a half an acre? Ridiculous. That's just ridiculous. Triplexes, duplexes, we're for it. I don't mind that because you're not taking away all green space. You're not taking away a setback on our neighbors. You know, the parking situation, there is so many things that are so wrong with that particular piece of property that's ridiculous. That's my own opinion. Anyways,
So I would encourage you and anybody else watching to, the other way, if you didn't catch it in the pilot, is every neighborhood association has a land use committee. And in Ardenwald, your land use committee chair is Lisa Gunyon-Rinker.
yes.
And so she generally knows, I don't know all the land use chairs, but she's one who's generally pretty attuned to what's going on. And so I would keep in touch with your neighborhood association
Thank you,
as
Lisa,
well.
I will.
Yeah, go have coffee with her or something, just pick her brain.
Yeah, sounds good to me.
Another thing you addressed, we are also in the comprehensive plan conversation. We're not just working on housing. So all the infrastructure issues that you mentioned, those also are being addressed. And obviously, if you increase housing, you also have to invest in all of the other infrastructure that goes along with it. I also would like to point to you mentioned a couple of streets in particular that are part of our SAFE program. So I'm not sure if you're familiar with the Safe Access
Safe
for
access
Everyone.
for everyone, yeah.
But it's a funded program that will be building infrastructure on those streets that you mentioned.
So Harvey will
Yes.
be,
Harvey is one of them.
Yes.
Absolutely.
so is,
37th.
I don't remember the full map.
Okay.
Safe.
Okay.
But it's
Milwaukee
actually,
map.
yeah, it's on the
There's a
website.
map, you will
Right.
find all, the entire
Okay.
program, all the listings of all of the routes and the connections.
okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thanks. Thank you.
All right, Heather. Wait till you.
I didn't find out about this until last weekend, and I came because I have
Give your name and.
Heather Sparks. I live on 37th and Ardenwald. And it's really put me into a panic because I haven't been informed about it. And I do get the pilot, but I don't always have time to read it. It doesn't really feel like the best way to get information out to the neighbors. It's true that usually, I think most neighbors will respond to flyers. But there are a lot of new units coming into our neighborhood. 500 on 32nd, 220 behind Albertsons, or the defunct Albertsons, and we still don't have a grocery store. And I just wonder, like, why has this been kept so secret? And, that makes me nervous. Why haven't other things that are less expensive been done to, improve the quality of life, like putting pressure on the highway department to plant out medians on Harrison to make that bike path that was built on or put together on 17th more usable for families? Why haven't trees been planted in the spaces where, that were left for plantings, which, that would reduce the traffic noise and make it a more pleasant bike ride? Why haven't things been done to utilize public transportation to make the walk down to the new light rail station feel more pleasant instead of playing Frogger with your small child? I mean, I drive all the time and I don't want to. I want to be on my bike with my child. I want to have my 6-year-old ride her bike with me. So, and the other concern I have is that there's no mention in the proposal for increased funding for mental health services or addiction services or police presence or funding for schools. There are at least 100 people on the wait list for Sojourner and El Puente. Those programs are in demand. And Ardenwald has a 4 rating. And now all of these new units are being built. We've been working on our street to get speed bumps in place for many years. And I've been blown off. My neighbors have been blown off every time we've asked for them. I just feel like it's too much at once. I would love to support fair housing, but I have been relieved that my slumlord neighbor is selling his house, and the 20 people who were setting off firecrackers and threatening to set our trees on fire are gone. I live next door to a guy who I know is making meth, even though it's out of fashion, and I'm scared to death because my 6-year-old and I live next door and our house could blow up, or, we're breathing in all those toxins. There are already these problems here, and it just feels like suddenly there's a lot more being added to it. I want to know who's going into these units. Are they going to be elderly people, disabled people, families, or is it going to be a bunch of men with big problems who we need, to take care of with infrastructure? I'm really feeling ashamed to feel threatened by this, but I do. It just feels like too much at once. And I would like to be better informed about what the plans are. Because, I've been thinking, do I need to sell my house? What do I do?
So there's all kinds of stuff to unpack, and as far as the bike ped infrastructure improvements, something else you may not know is that this city is investing over $50 million over the next 9 years to improve the bike and ped infrastructure in the city, citywide. And when it's done, it will make it very safe to walk and ride a bike all over the city. That is happening. There are projects being built as we speak. There are more projects being engineered.
That's the SAFE program.
That's the SAFE program.
Great, I would love to know more about it, and I'd love to support it.
MilwaukeeSafe.org.
Yeah, and actually, I was going to say this is a great opportunity. I'm happy to talk through some of these. A lot of
Yeah.
these are issues we're working on. So if you want to,
And some that are out of our
Yeah.
hands. So I think it's
Totally.
important to get you some follow-up to really answer some specific questions about what we do and do not control. ODOT, the school district,
human services.
human services is a county issue. I think that
School
there is
districts.
a lot that.
It
that
seems like that should
followed
be
Private
built
property.
into the study. If you're going to be doing a feasibility study, you need to consider the impact
That was a very
on
specific
residents.
feasibility study on a particular type of housing that's become popular in other places, where it allows housing to be affordable to people like a couple coming out of college, right? That's got college debt. They can't buy a $700,000 house, but a $250, $300 cottage they could afford, right? So this is the concept, and older folks that are wanting to downsize the house they raised their kids in, they want to be able to buy a smaller house, they want to be able to stay in the city. Well, they're not going to be able to do that unless we cause in some way there to be housing built that is affordable to them. So that's the intent of that form of housing. And so the concept of the study around ADUs and around cottage clusters is to determine, what does that look like? What are the problems we need to solve up front? What are the parameters we want to put on it? All of those things. And that's the entire point of the study that's been going on for the last year.
And so where are the findings being published?
So
for the
I
study?
can get you with a whole, just because we're getting into details tonight, I can get you a bunch of the studies. I also can talk through where things fall and which government agencies are dealing with what issues. We've also talked to the school district pretty significantly around the housing issue, and I can give you some more information and their contact information. And if you don't get what you need, then come back.
Great,
But I
thanks.
think that this at least gets you some more information in advance. Does
Yeah,
that work?
Okay.
That's great. Yeah, and I think it would help all the neighbors to have like just a link to a lot of public information so that everyone has peace of mind. You don't have a lot of people like me coming in freaking out. And, to also perhaps raise support for the project. I think if there's transparency, there may be more support. I'm familiar with, tiny housing and some of the advantages of them and some of the ways that those, that they help keep a sort of character of a neighborhood intact. But, I have been hearing different things, and I want to make sure that our neighborhood, just becomes a better place to live instead of going into decline because there are a lot of people coming in at once and there isn't an infrastructure to support them.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
Elvis.
Elvis Clark. I live in Ardenwell neighborhood, and so, my main motivation for coming here tonight was to support Donna Smith and my neighbors. I live about 2 blocks away from this proposed pilot cottage cluster, and so I just wanted to be supportive of their worries and stuff on that site. And the other reason was also with the legislature ending the, I wasn't able to participate in that grand jury or jury to look at your pay, or not your pay, stipends and stuff. But I was gone the first week of that thing, so if you reschedule, you probably maybe not want to, but if you reschedule the fall, I'm fine with that. Also, with the passage of House Bill 2001, it seemed like there's ways in that bill that still you can manage as a city to place the cottage clusters in certain areas and maybe not in the neighborhoods like Ardenwell where that cottage cluster goes. Duplexes, though, are pretty easy and stuff like that. That fits in. But another part of House Bill 2001 was it now kind of demands a housing forecast numbers of units. And whereas I would err on the side of caution or being conservative in your forecast so that you're not wedded to something that's maybe more ambitious. If you err on the side of being conservative on that forecast and you come in above that, you look pretty good. So that's my comment on HB 2001, the stuff I know of it now. SB 558 is the transportation bill, so you can lower the speed limits in neighborhoods from 25 to 20. And I think a certain couple of streets in Ardenwell, as a transportation member there, of the neighborhood association is Olson and Filbert are through streets from 32nd to 42nd. So those are kind of like places where you could put the 20 mile an hour zone and probably make some difference maybe, because I've gotten some complaints that people are cutting through in rush hour through that area. And it also, that's the easement to the Ardenwell School. And so that's that thing. I don't know if you go pervasive on the 20 mile an hour in the neighborhoods, because then maybe it loses its independent selection, and this road's different than the other ones and that kind of thing. Anyway, that's all my comment. I mean, all my comments. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
RJ?
Hi, how are you?
Good, how are you?
My name's RJ Barnes. We just moved here last year. I live at 3715 Southeast Harvey, which is right across the street from one of the proposed clusters is. So, on Sunday, I found out that this project had been going on. At that time, we didn't know that it was actually that the study was happening. We thought it was going to happen, like it was just rolling down the road. So, I am hugely relieved to find out that this is still in the study phases. I'm not going to go through like all 10 pages here of notes that I wrote down to list through, because I think a lot of it's already been said. But the three concerns, I flipped through the study that was online. It was like 170 pages or so. I flipped through that, and the concerns that I had that hadn't been addressed on there was the financial impact to neighbors of those clusters. What's it going to do to home prices there? My wife and I just moved. You know, our house is our largest investment by far, and something that could kind of derail that is of concern. It's of huge concern to me. So that's one of my first concerns, and I didn't see it anywhere in the study. The second one is the parking and fire access. We've already talked a little bit about parking. And the fact that it's merely a study and it was like an artist's rendering. I mean, it wasn't an exact copy of what's going to happen on that property. I think it still needs to be addressed. There were comments about both allowing parking there, but also having a hammer turnaround for fire vehicles, and the hammer turnaround that Clackamas County uses is actually wider than the entire property is. So there's stuff in there that doesn't make sense with that. And then, of course, the road condition, the infrastructure of the area. Every time a school bus goes by, our house shakes. We had a contractor/inspector come out, and when we were going through the buying process, and he crawled underneath and he said, "It's not your foundation. Your foundation is solid. Your house is attached. It's good. It's the road." So I started digging around, and then I find out that city buses have been using that. The road is in dire need. It's not safe for pedestrians. If we're going to move more people onto there are potential cyclists and commuters, walking down to catch the 75 right on the corner there. It's unsafe. It's not safe for them to go through there. So I'm hugely relieved to know that this is just the study point. I would love to be involved with it, in reference to the notification piece. In previous places where we've lived, I've had home occupation businesses where I've sold sporting goods online. I sell first aid kits and hunting clothing and stuff like that. And I had to get permission from all of my neighbors within 100 yards of our property to be able to do that. They all received a notice. This wasn't in Milwaukie.
Oh, I was gonna say.
But
It's not our
something
process.
as simple as a home occupation business selling first aid kits online meant that everybody in that 100 yards around that property received a letter in the mail from the city.
So, and when there
That's-
is a proposal, we do have notice standards that are 300
Right.
around.
Yeah.
And that's why you don't get a notice when there is no proposal.
Right.
And the land use committee will also receive notice of that. So Ardenwald's
land use
Right.
committee will hear about that. So it won't just be the neighbors within the 300 feet radius. The land use committee will also receive notification for the whole, so the whole neighborhood will have an opportunity to learn about this once we actually have a project that is
But
moving
once we have a
forward.
project, isn't that like farther down the road than we'd want to be to have input from,
Which is
from
why-
neighbors?
Yeah, we have, so there's a number of things that are happening right now. We are going to be opening up our housing code this fall, actually this winter, just because our comprehensive plan will be done at that point.
Right.
So you would want to come in and you would want to testify at that time about any of the recommended changes and make your comments known.
Before that time.
Yeah.
All of these meetings are open, all of the
Absolutely.
open houses are, we're trying to promote them, and so,
We have an
I
online-
would like to have received a lot more comments long before it gets to adoption point. So there
Yeah.
are opportunities long before then to participate, including right now, because we are in the process of updating our comprehensive.
I think when we get like 70 people together in 2 days over an issue and they're all saying that they didn't know about it.
So we have
There's
had
just an-
hundreds of people participate in the
people.
public meetings around this topic. So I do just want to be.
From like people that
All
live,
over the
Milwaukeeans.
city.
All
people
over.
that live next door to it.
All
all over the
There-
city.
There were several
was-
sites that
there-
were being
there were-
studied as
Right,
just.
but
as-
no one next to this one.
Actually,
and so that
I
would
don't know
be-
what all the addresses
Actually,
are, and
yeah.
I can't.
That's actually incorrect. I know of exactly one neighbor that's right across the street from it that was at the,
I live right across the street from it. It is right there. Dolores is right next door.
just telling you, there was at least,
Yeah. Yeah, and I'm sure she'll give those to you. So that's all I have. Thank you for your time. Like I said, I would love to be able to to participate in it in any way, as we're going forward. Housing is a monster issue. It's huge, and it has to be fixed.
Yeah.
We just want to be involved and be informed.
I want
Yeah,
to thank all
yeah.
of you for bringing this to our attention,
Yeah.
because I do think that we created as one of our goals, more outreach, but, the public engagement piece is very, very important
Yeah.
to us. So it's very good feedback to hear from you that all of you were unaware that this was a study and not a proposal, and so I think that's really good information for us to have going forward as we are doing these projects to make sure that we are reaching as many people as possible.
And I would like to also put in a quick plug for the Leadership Academy, which is an opportunity for anyone who's expressing interest. And I take anyone who comes and sits in these really uncomfortable chairs out here for the amount of time you have sat in here to be people who are interested in how we do things in the city. This is an effort to provide an opportunity for folks to learn exactly that. And there's more information.
At MilwaukeeOregon.gov /leadership. So there's a couple things. One, the survey is currently open on comp plans, so I would invite you to do that. I've given my card out to everyone. We will provide you with any of the documents we have, any of the studies we've done, any upcoming public engagement opportunities around this topic. And then part of this too is that we have a list of people that we've been contacting as we've been going through the comp plan and as we're going into the code rewrites. If you're interested in that, just let me know in your email. We'll add you to that listserv so that you get that information as well.
And if your neighbors, the 70 neighbors that are obviously very interested in these issues, I would really encourage you, if you can reach out to them and ask them to please make sure that you're getting on that list, because there's a weekly email that provides all of these opportunities. That goes out every Friday from our public, from public information here. So everyone has an opportunity to receive this
Excellent. Good.
information on a regular basis.
That's all I could ask.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
it's not,
No, that was the one that Siri
oh,
didn't
okay.
fill out.
all right. Anybody else? Okay. So, public hearing, annexation of the Harmony Road campus of Clackamas Community College, file number A-2016-006, an ordinance. The public hearing on the proposed annexation of the Harmony Road campus of Clackamas Community College, file number A-2016-006 is called to order. Purpose of this hearing is for the council to take public comment on the proposed annexation and to consider an ordinance to adopt, annex the property. Staff will now note the relevant criteria.
I forgot that was coming, I'm sorry.
while you're looking that up, I can do the part about conflicts of interest.
That would be excellent.
Does any member of council wish to announce any actual or potential conflicts of interest? Nor do I. Does any council member wish to announce any ex parte contacts?
No.
Nor do I. Does any member of the audience wish to make any challenge to the council members' impartiality or ability to participate in this decision? Seeing none. All right, back to you.
The criteria are listed in the municipal code at chapter 191102.3. And they reference some other criteria that are state law and metro code.
Okay. So, you ready to do the staff report?
Yes, finally, this is before you.
I noticed the September 2016 date on it.
I know, it's kind of embarrassing, to look at that, but this is there is a saga and a story behind much of this. But what is before you tonight is the annexation of the college campus, the Clackamas Community College campus, and quite a bit of right-of-way to be able to bring that in. The city limits end, let's see if I can, our current city limits end at this point right here, so we need to annex at least this, at a minimum, this portion of right-of-way so that the college campus is contiguous. What we have proposed is to annex basically all of the Harmony right-of-way from the current city limits here at Linwood along the frontage of the campus, stopping just short of the Toys R Us site, because we're not annexing the Toys R Us site.
So,
Sorry, Will.
in a big picture way of thinking, do I remember seeing something in our notes of upcoming annexations that we might be annexing Lake Road from that point down to wherever it's not city?
There's a small portion of Lake Road that you're going to be considering in a month or so to complete the annexation of the Cherigino Farms.
Oh, just that portion?
Yeah.
So,
we'll
not coming all the way out here?
Right. We'll need to come back at another time and deal with the rest of Lake Road. This application started back before the college built its new facilities. And the reason we were able to initiate this is the college was hooked up to sewer. We have a sewer line that runs out there outside the city limits. It's our sewer line. They disconnected from the sewer, and in order to build, we asked that they file a consent to annex in order to re-hook up to sewer. So that was the initiation. We didn't want to annex until the building was built because all of the construction was happening in the county at the time. And then after it was built and we started to look at the annexation, the county was dealing with some changes in the way they approach cherry stem annexations. This is called a cherry stem annexation when you extend some right-of-way to get some property. And as a result, there was a court case in Happy Valley that changed the way the county approached this. And essentially, for many annexations like this, the county would need to be a co-applicant for the application because they are now considered the owner of the right-of-way. Well, rather than approach the county to get that application, we chose to take a different approach to annexation, and we have historically used what we call an expedited annexation process, where if an applicant applies and they meet all the criteria, we'll annex them. In this case, we have two owners, one that's applied
one that hasn't. So we can use what's called the triple majority annexation process. We normally don't hold hearings for annexations. Tonight, we're actually holding a hearing. The expedited process doesn't require a hearing. So the triple majority is that we have a consent of a majority of the owners, a consent of the owners of the, from the majority of the territory, and the majority of the assessed value. So those are the three triggers, and right-of-way doesn't count in the calculation. So it gave us a mechanism to annex without having to go ask the county for permission, although they probably would have given us permission. It just meant having to go to the board and getting them to sign off on it. So we've.
So are you saying they don't know we're doing this tonight?
No, they do. They've gotten notice. They've gotten notice. In fact, one of the delays was we started to do this and we erroneously listed out the expedited annexation criteria, and the staff person reviewing it caught it and told us, you know, you're not following the right process. You said you're following the right process, but then in the staff report, we actually listed the wrong criteria. So I am 100% certain that we've got the right criteria sightings listed now in the staff report, because we got called on it. But that was another part of just slowing this whole thing down. Although there was really nothing, you know, really totally pressing, that we had a tight timeline on it. So I've already talked more than I wanted. These are the approval criteria that are addressed in your staff report and in the findings. They're the references to, there's the reference to the Metro Code section that we needed to comply with. You know, we're inside the urban growth boundary, we're contiguous to the city limits. We've met all of the procedural requirements that are set out in the Oregon Revised Statutes. We demonstrate in the staff report how we're consistent with comp plan policies, and then the urban service provisions that are outlined in the Metro Code. And then we will apply our comp plan designations that are consistent with the county map. So on June 11th, because this is a triple majority annexation, this went to Planning Commission. So Planning Commission held a hearing on June 11th, no testimony, and the commission recommended approval. And the designations would be C commercial on the comp plan and CL limited commercial on the zoning map, and those are consistent with the office designation. I think when we go back and start to look at some of the comp plan amendments, we'll think about comp plan map amendments. We'll think about whether or not we want to keep the CL designation on this, because I'm not sure we want to keep the CL zone.
Will that also suffice for the zoning for when Clackamas Fire One builds their administrative buildings there?
It's basically an office. That would need to come in as a community service use, actually.
Okay.
Yeah. This building on this site basically will exist now as a de facto community service use. That's one that we've accepted.
And is that what our schools all are generally?
Yes.
Lower elementary and high school and everything? They're all community service use?
Right.
Okay.
So that, I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have.
So I have one, I guess. Well, first off, I'm very excited that this is happening. And I have even noticed on their Facebook and their website that they refer to it as Clackamas Community College Milwaukie now. So they have the Oregon City, Wilsonville, and Milwaukie campuses. They've started referring to it that way, so that's nice. I do have one question, which is about that road. So if you want to put back up that slide. On the far right side of that picture, that Harmony Road, Linwood Railroad intersection.
Far left.
the intersection from hell with the railroad crossing that ties up traffic and that has been talked about for years, needing to be grade separated from the railroad and all of that stuff. Are we taking on liability that we didn't have before now by?
I don't think we're taking on any new liability that we didn't already have, but let me thank you so much for the email because it did allow me to do a little research before the meeting tonight. It is actually already in the city limits.
The intersection
The
is?
intersection entirely is in the city limits. This black dotted line right here. I've lost the
Crossing over the.
black dotted line is the current city limits. So the actual yellow is a little sloppy here. It should have started right there. We found a resolution from 1979 that states that we have jurisdiction over that intersection. But I find that a little bit confusing because our 2007 TSP included that intersection improvement as a project. The 2013 TSP removed that project from the TSP. It's in the county's TSP, in their 20-year capital improvement plan, as it being a project that requires improvement. But in the county TSP, it also notes that the city, it's in partnership with the city. So, I don't know. I mean, there's, in one way you could look at it is we're already responsible for it. The other way you could look at it is we're gonna be partially responsible for it with the county. And I think it's definitely the type of project that will be eligible for metro help.
Probably ODOT.
So,
Yeah.
I don't think this adds anything new to us. I do know that the county is about to begin a project to do some improvements from here to Fuller. This is Fuller right here. So it's along that entire frontage, and do some pedestrian crossings.
They'll still do that on Harley Road,
On-
have the right of way.
Would you repeat again?
Yeah, we'll let them, yeah. I'm sorry. Oh, thank you so much. So you said they were gonna do a project from Fuller Road to
80th.
to 82nd.
80th, I think, is where it is actually.
Okay, but if we now have ownership or right-of-way of that, are they still gonna do that?
It will be in the city limits,
Yeah.
but we will not have jurisdiction
have transferred
over that
title.
portion of the road yet.
Okay,
So we're, at a minimum, gonna let them do that
Okay.
project
okay,
before we
great.
would take it on.
They were talking about those kind of things at C4, about the county doing it, and then maybe at some point turning those roads over to the cities, various cities that they were talking about. Okay.
In discussions with the county about annexation like this, they would like to see us take over jurisdiction of roads within the city limits. So that is a discussion that's still to
So I
occur.
think would we, once they're up to snuff.
Yeah, they said they would be sealing them, slurry sealing them, and then would work with cities to turn them over, but they would do the work first.
So
Up to their standards.
Up to their standards.
well, there's still some more research that we need to do, and as we reopen our transportation systems plan, I think we need to reopen discussions with the county about these types of projects.
So we're taking,
We're annexing.
we're annexing
we
the
haven't-
right of way, but not taking responsibility
We
for the
haven't
road?
taken
think
over,
about it,
we
just-
haven't taken, we won't, with annexation, we don't automatically take over the jurisdiction of the road, which would mean full maintenance responsibility.
So for example, 224 runs through the city of Milwaukie. It is inside of the city of Milwaukie,
Right,
but we do not own 224.
right, right.
And that's similar with county roads.
But I mean, it was built through our city. It wasn't an annexation to 24, so.
But it's the same concept.
A lot of cities have those. Probably one of the ones I think of that has the most of them is like Happy Valley. A lot of their interior roads are actually county roads, but little by little, they ultimately get turned over to the city, if that's a negotiation that works for the two entities. But it's throughout Clackamas County, probably throughout everything. I mean, I just know about Clackamas County. And I know too, because they talked a lot about that at the C4 retreat recently and how they were gonna be working on those kind of things.
We'll have another discussion about this in a month or so when we deal with the Lake Road and Coon Road annexations.
Yeah.
Because Coon's a local road, it's automatic, the way they treat it, that transfers automatically because it's a local street. Lake being a collector arterial level, you have to get they have to transfer that jurisdiction. I'm not sure why that's the way it works, but that's what I was told.
Arcane.
Okay.
Well, I know we've got a few more, because this is a different type of process. There's more on your script.
Yeah, okay. Any other questions for Denny? All right, have we received any additional correspondence on this topic?
We have not.
Does anyone wish to comment on the proposed annexation? The council will now take public testimony on the proposed annexation. I will recognize speakers, and any questions should be addressed through me. When you come to the table, state your name and city residence for the record. Presentation times for all speakers will be limited.
You don't have to read all that if nobody's wanting.
Is anybody
It's
interested?
fine.
No? Nobody? I didn't know. Oh, that's done. These
Well,
are the
she
done.
didn't actually.
But I don't have to worry about it, that's what that means. After that, it's Scott's problem.
Okay. Just handing them off to us.
All right. Is a representative of the applicant present?
Not that I'm aware,
Okay,
except I guess we applied for the right-of-way annexation.
so we are the
I
applicant,
think we would advocate for that.
okay? Does anyone wish to speak in support of the applicant? Does anyone wish to speak against the annexation? Do we have anyone who would like to offer neutral testimony? Does any staff have any response to any of the testimony? So all these things that I'm reading are all irrelevant. Does the council have any more questions for staff? No? Okay, if there are no further questions from the council, I will entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
I'll second.
It has been moved and seconded to close the public hearing on the proposed annexation. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. The public testimony portion of the public hearing on the proposed annexation of the Harmony Road campus of Clackamas Community College is hereby closed. Is there any council discussion?
Just that it seems so anticlimactic. We've been waiting forever, and, former Councilor Chamoff was, I think, a player in moving this forward, and when they built their building, I know most of us went to the groundbreaking and then to the dedication of their new buildings out there, so it's great, and
And I think,
it's exciting to have them in Milwaukie.
I believe Greg is on their board now.
Yeah,
Correct?
I think he might even be the chair, yeah.
Yeah, now we can finally say we have a college in Milwaukee.
Yeah, yeah.
It's a wonderful asset. I'm really glad that it's joining our city. I mean, we've had events there and haven't had events there.
Now we'll be there all the time.
And now that it's in the city of Milwaukie, I think, we'll certainly find reasons to justify being there more often.
Yeah, it's a good space.
And there should be some motion about how Scott has to only wear their swag now, since he wears every other team's swag.
I don't think they have any actual
That's
teams.
got it.
They do.
They do.
They have a team?
Cougars.
Cougars, all right.
Cougars.
Oh.
Cool. All right. So then I would entertain a motion.
I can go ahead and do that. I move for the first and second readings by title only and adoption of the ordinance annexing into the city limits of the city of Milwaukee the tracts of land identified as tax lots 2S2E05A 0400 and 0402 and 0403, the Harmony Road campus of the Clackamas Community College, as well as the public right-of-way of Southeast Harmony Road from Southeast Linwood Avenue to the eastern boundary of the Community College near 80th Avenue, file A-2016-006.
I'll second.
It has been moved and seconded for first and second readings by title only and adoption of the ordinance annexing into the city limits of the city of Milwaukee the tracts of land identified as tax lots 2S2E05A, 0400, 0402, and 0403, the Harmony Road campus of Clackamas Community College, as well as the public right-of-way of Southeast Harmony Road from Southeast Linwood Avenue to the eastern boundary of the Community College near 80th Avenue. File number A-2016-006. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? None heard. It passes unanimously. Ms. Ober, would you like to read it by title only twice?
Can we change that in the ordinance when we open the code?
Yes.
An ordinance of the City of Milwaukee, Oregon, annexing tracts of land identified as tax lots 2S2E05A, space 0400, space 0402, space, and 0403, space, the Harmony Road campus of Clackamas Community College, as well as the public right-of-way of Southeast Harmony Road from Southeast Linwood Avenue to the eastern boundary of the Community College campus near the Southeast 80th Avenue into the city limits of the City of Milwaukee. File number A-2016-006. And again, an ordinance of the City of Milwaukee, Oregon, annexing tracts of land identified as tax lots 2S2E05A, space 0400, space 0402, space, and 0403, the Harmony Road campus of the Clackamas Community College, as well as the public right-of-way of Southeast Harmony Road from Southeast Linwood Avenue to the eastern boundary of the Community College campus near the Southeast 80th Avenue into the city limits of the City of Milwaukee, file number A-2016, space 006.
Mr. Stoffer, would you please poll the council?
Councilor Heisey.
Aye.
Council President Faulkner.
Yes.
Councilor Beatty.
Aye.
Councilor Parks.
Aye.
Mayor Gamba.
Aye.
Motion passed 5-0, ordinance 2174.
Yay.
Yay.
Congratulations.
We have a code.
This is actually a really big deal.
Yeah, you know, the 13 years I had my office down there, I always told people it was in the city of Milwaukee, so now I'm
Oh, I
glad,
see.
now I'm glad I can be legal.
We made an honest woman out of you.
You're darn right. Well, I had a Milwaukee address, so, yeah.
All right. Our next item is the Comprehensive Plan Housing Policies Resolution. This will be introduced by our senior planner, David Levitan.
Thank you, Mayor Gamba, councilors. My name is David Levitan, and when I'm not accidentally walking into executive sessions, I am the project manager for the Comprehensive Plan Update. We are here tonight to consider a resolution to pin down the Comprehensive Plan's housing policies. A little bit of information on the housing block. As you remember, back about a year ago, the decision was made to remove the housing chapter from Block 2 of the Comprehensive Plan Update, which was Block 2 of 3 blocks, and to have it run concurrently as its own separate block of work, given the importance of housing here in the city of Milwaukee. What we've tried to do is to incorporate a lot of the technical work that we did through our housing needs analysis back in 2016, as well as a lot of the work that was done for the housing affordability strategy back in 2018. Combine that with a good amount of public outreach, and then really started the process back in December of 2018 when we had the housing forum at what is now in the city of Milwaukie, there at Clackamas Community College. So just a little bit of overview of the process and community engagement. We have done a good amount. We're obviously always looking for ways to improve. We want to get as many people involved in this process as possible. But we did have that housing forum back in December. We had a joint meeting with the City Council, Planning Commission, and Design and Landmarks Committee the week following that. We had 5 meetings that focused on housing with the Comprehensive Plan Advisory Committee. If you could, Mayor Gamba and Councilor Beatty could kind of probably speak to where we started at with some of these policies and where they are now. Drastically different, and we wouldn't have gotten anywhere close without the hard work of the CPAC. And so I just wanted to commend them for all of the hard work that they have done. We had our big kind of public outreach event on April 18th, our housing town hall over at the Waldorf School. That was complemented by an online open house, which saw 314 unique visitors to that. We would obviously like to have that number higher, and so we're going to continue to look at ways to improve our outreach. And then we've also had a work session with the council and a couple work sessions with the Planning Commission. And at our last work session with the Planning Commission on, I believe it was on June 11th, they also noted just the amount of progress that had occurred with the policy language. And so, you know, we're really looking forward to hearing what the council has to say tonight. So, just to give a kind of high-level summary of some of the major changes that have occurred since the council had the joint work session with the Planning Commission on May 21st. We've added a new policy under each goal, basically calling for the establishment of metrics to help measure success in achieving that goal. We've, based on a lot of feedback, especially from the CPAC, we've decided to remove a lot of the individual examples just that were very prescriptive, and that may change over the years as best practices or as housing types change. We remove that into, as we develop the actual document for the comprehensive plan, is to move a lot of those examples into call-out boxes or into the definition section, just so that they can be a lot more inclusive and not be so anytime that you want to change any sort of wordsmithing that you're not having to actually change the policy language. We have some new policies on protecting natural resources, advocating for transit service, expanding first-time home ownership. And you can see in attachment 2, we have a track changes version of the document that shows all of the various changes that have occurred since May 21st. There's kind of a rainbow of different colors in that document, just all the different times that we've gone back in and made edits. And then attachment 3 shows the policies in their current clean form. So what we are requesting tonight, as we've done back for blocks 1 and 2, the council adopted a resolution effectively pinning down the policies, not adopting them by ordinance, but instead pinning them down by resolution with the understanding that we will be revisiting all of the different policies, including the policies in Block 3, which we're currently working on now, during a synthesis stage where we'll be evaluating all the policies for redundancies and overlaps, potentially shifting things around. And so we would be coming back in late 2019 to do that, essentially adopting the policy components of the comprehensive plan. And then as we move into 2020, we would start to work on any potential map amendments and also any code amendments as well. So with that, our questions for the council tonight are, is the council ready to adopt a resolution pinning down the housing policies? Or are there goals or policies that need to be further refined? And if so, can those be incorporated tonight? Or does this item need to come back in August? And with that, I would open it up to the council discussion.
So I have a couple of, just a couple minor things, and then one thing, well, maybe this one's minor too, so maybe mine are all minor, so I'll start. So on, let's see. On page, RS 64, number 3, under equity goals, something kind of rubbed me a little bit wrong about, referring to everyone as vulnerable, and I wondered if we might insert historically marginalized or before the word vulnerable. I think the intention, is the same, but also maybe a little bit more respectful.
So it would read what?
It would
Marginally
read,
vulnerable?
it would read zoning code requirements,
Promote zoning
and code requirements that remove or prevent potential barriers to homeownership and rental opportunities for people of all ages and abilities, including historically marginalized or vulnerable populations, such as.
Oh, okay, I
yeah.
get it, yeah.
Sure.
Everyone.
I don't have any issue with that.
That's fine.
And then on RS 66, under sustainability goal number 8, and this is maybe just something sort of as we think about mobility in the city, allow for a reduction in required off-street parking for new development. I would maybe suggest consider changing walking distance to be more inclusive, so perhaps within close proximity to. Not everyone can walk. I just think, that's not really what is walking distance anyway, so if
totally
we're gonna be that
arbitrary.
vague, let's say in
Really
close
get vague and
proximity.
go
Yeah.
close proximity.
Embrace the vagueness.
Increase the vagueness to be more inclusive.
Sometimes that's better than being more specific, that's for sure.
Well, and everybody's measure of walking distance is different.
Way different.
And then the last one, if that works for folks, or if people have better ideas, I'd really like to hear them, because that was my best shot.
To me, when I read it both ways, close proximity sounds smaller than walking distance. Right, it's a less area that you can do this to, which I don't think is the direction we want to
Nope.
go.
It isn't, but it's both of those things are undefined, and
Yeah, and I think the CPAC discussion was, not to try to quantify at this juncture, so, I mean, I don't see it
I
as
think
a
we
significant.
quantify in our code. I mean, that's where we're
right.
gonna say things like within a quarter mile or a half a mile, depending on what the situation, the circumstances are.
Right.
So I think that I don't really think that there's any harm in saying proximity versus walking. I think
Okay.
Yeah, I don't see any problem with it.
And then on livability goal number 3, I understand where this is headed, and I understand the good policy nature behind this. But I think unintended consequences might be specifically with ADUs and cottage clusters. So orienting every single building on one of those sites would perhaps make it impossible to build the kind of interactive spaces that we'd envisioned when we were talking about these types of projects. If every building has to be faced toward a street rather than around a common area that's planned for that type of a development, you're gonna come up with some really awkward designs.
I know, in some of the schematics that we saw from the cottage cluster study.
Very few of them were oriented.
Exactly, yeah,
Right.
they were oriented in a variety of different ways
Depending
within
on-
that area.
Yeah, so I wondered if we might change that to something, to suggest changing it to standards that require new housing to make a positive contribution to the public realm by orienting the development to the street or shared space. Just essentially removing.
Sorry, I can't, what, is this RS 67? What page are we on?
67.
67.
Yeah?
Yeah,
What's
number
the number?
3, so administer development co-standards that require new housing.
Okay, I was just reading the blue and not the orange.
Oh, yeah.
Never mind.
So orienting the front of
Yeah.
the building is the part that's
Right, right. I'm with you now.
concerning to me.
Say orienting the development.
Right.
But would people maybe take that to mean that everything in the development needed to be oriented toward the street?
Again, sufficiently
Code.
vague, or.
Right.
Right, okay.
That's my,
Yeah.
I don't know how to make it work so that it meets both sort of that, like I said, for some properties, that's a really important standard, but for others, that's gonna be very awkward.
I mean, it could be, I think this is getting too prescriptive, so I don't actually recommend this, but you could say something like, orienting the front of any building with, frontage.
Street frontage?
Street frontage.
Yeah, that's probably,
That's probably what they, intention, and I think
Right.
that's exactly why we wrote it for things like, when we were talking moving forward Milwaukee and downtown design standards. But for some of,
I don't, yeah.
Or even back up more and talk about the intent, right? Like just administer development code standards that require new housing, engage the public realm, or through design, or, some way that says, here's what we're after.
engage the,
Figure it out, the code from that, but.
yeah, I like that even better, just removing the,
So we're removing the clause to make a positive contribution to and saying administer
To
code.
make
You can,
positive
yeah, you can
contribution.
leave that to the public realm by assuring that,
That you just get two public realms in there, basically, if you don't remove that
oh, I
clause.
see. Yeah, so make a positive contribution.
We could probably hand wave this to
Can't you
David.
just end the sentence after public realm?
yes,
Public
I think you can do
contribution
that.
In such a way that it
Just leave it.
engages.
Says what we want it to say, doesn't it?
Just end the sentence after public realm.
New housing to make a positive
Although that
contribution
doesn't
to
get
the
to
public
the-
realm.
It doesn't
Yeah, it
get to the
doesn't quite get
specific
to
issue.
engaging with-
Yeah.
Okay.
Engages and makes a positive contribution.
I don't see any need to leave a positive contribution in there. I wasn't complaining and calling that out. I think you could say administer development code standards that require new housing to participate in the public realm by, or I don't know. I had it and then it was gone. I needed to write it down.
But I think that engage with is not a
Engage.
bad word.
Yeah.
With the public realm, yeah. I think that if we're okay losing the positive contribution
Yeah.
portion,
Yeah.
Require new housing to engage with the public realm by orienting the front of the building to the street, or, yeah.
but do we want to lose all the provision of appropriate setback and lot coverage standards?
Well, aren't those,
That'll be in the code, but I think it might be valuable to call it out here because people aren't going to read the code and they will be concerned about that. So we want to make it clear to readers
have to
that
do
this
that.
is still something of value.
yeah.
Although those are really two different ideas. So the
yeah.
the setback and lot coverage standards don't have to do with the public realm. Those really aren't, those are two different
Right.
issues in my view. So,
But
And-
it's a
Different
space,
values,
it's a
really.
space, it's a sense of space, right? Because
Right.
your setback creates, right, so the difference between
well, the
things.
front yard setback does.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, but the other setbacks.
And we talk about setbacks in the very next,
Right.
or the two down setback.
That's true.
So we
actually.
could just, if there's
Move that
more to,
down
we
to
could
there.
say appropriate setbacks, or if we wanted to add to that one.
That's a good point.
And lot coverage standards. So we could just move appropriate setbacks of lot coverage standards to number 5, replacing it with setback, or replacing for
But
setbacks,
this is just talking about transitions, isn't it?
which is what setbacks do.
Well, but no, I mean, a transition is, the concept, at least as I understand it, is a transition between two different
Oh, I'm
types of
sorry.
housing.
Density
yeah,
So you've got,
areas, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Right, so if two were
apartment,
the same,
an
then it
apartment
wouldn't apply to
complex
this,
and then
yeah.
a single-family house, it's the transition between those two. I don't
Do we
think
want to make it its own standalone?
Or we could just do 2 sentences there.
Yeah.
Administered development code that require new housing, engage the public realm, period. Appropriate, and utilize, yeah, it gets sticky, doesn't it?
I mean, this gets to sort of some of the testimony we heard tonight, right? About,
Lot coverage and
lot
setbacks.
coverage and green space and
That's why we don't
all of
want to
that.
lose it.
So ultimately, maybe it's okay the way it is.
Oh, I think we want to leave it in.
Well,
I just don't know if we want to leave it in here.
But,
Well,
I mean,
what-
Angel's point is correct, like, a properly designed cottage cluster, or at least the best ones
Right,
I've
it
seen,
wouldn't all
always
be
have
oriented to this.
have a
They have a courtyard.
nice
Yeah.
common area in the
Right.
center, and they're
Right.
oriented to that, so they become this little community.
Well, why can't we do administer development code standards that require new housing to engage with the public realm and provide provisions for appropriate setback and lot coverage standards?
Sure.
Yeah,
Did you
good.
get all that?
Provide
Solve it.
for, you don't need provide provisions.
Yeah.
That's not good.
Yeah,
English.
thank you.
Talking at the same time.
I'll have to call Shane Abma on you.
You didn't mention that we added, that they were adding a shall. Past conversation about code update.
Did you get that?
I did get it, yeah. And I guess as far as if we are doing the resolution tonight, I can read it back if somebody is gonna need to read it in to account for it, or I'm not quite sure.
Council's discussed it. If you have them, you just read the changes they've just agreed to into the record, and then whenever the motion's made, the end would say as,
Read into the record.
as noted, with changes as noted by staff.
Yeah,
Okay.
with changes as noted by.
So yeah, I have the first 3, so if we have anything else, I can read them.
That's what I have.
Well, but that's just Angel, so.
Yeah.
Anybody else? Lisa, no?
I don't know.
I mean, I had little typo things, but I'm not gonna put you through that. I'll just send an email.
You can email him those, yeah.
All right.
That's what I got.
Are we good to go?
So I can note that in Equity Policy 3, we have added, so I guess I'll just read the whole thing. Promote zoning and code requirements that remove or prevent potential barriers to home ownership and rental opportunities for people of all ages and abilities, including historically marginalized or vulnerable populations such as people of color, aging populations, and people with low incomes. On Sustainability Policy 8, allow for a reduction in required off-street parking for new development within close proximity to light rail stations and frequent bus service corridors. And for Livability Policy 3, administer development code standards that require new housing, engage with the public realm, and provide for appropriate setbacks and lot coverage standards.
Okay. All right. I would entertain a motion.
I move to approve the resolution pinning down the proposed housing goals and policies with edits read by staff in the comprehensive plan update, final versions of which will be adopted by ordinance during the synthesis stage of the project.
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the resolution pinning down the proposed housing goals, including changes read into the record by staff. Policies in the comprehensive plan, final versions of which will be adopted by ordinance during the synthesis stage of the project. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None heard? Passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Thanks, great job, David.
Yeah, this is great.
Thanks to everyone.
Yeah.
We've been working on this for a really long time, and it's so funny when you finally read the.
It's so simple.
So much
But that's a good sign.
You're counting words. Don't count words.
It's not a brief, like, judge it by the weight.
Yeah,
it's
the
good.
final project
done.
doesn't
No.
actually reflect all of the work that went into it, so thank you.
I think it does, because to get to policies that are that succinct, that
Yeah.
takes way more work, I think.
Way harder than
That's,
Right.
yeah, that's, it's elegant. Elegance is light.
It took a lot
There
of,
you go.
yeah, there were a lot of
Take
voices,
elegance.
you know, the
Yep.
CPAC, the planning commission.
The open
And there were a
house.
lot of
Open houses.
acronyms on that one slide. I
So many.
Yeah.
But soup.
Yeah, we should probably work on our acronym.
We do.
Yeah,
Yep.
not, and spelling out more of our acronyms.
Alrighty. We're not going into executive session because we did that.
Oh,
We don't have to do that.
so I had one thing I wanted to bring up. I thought Anne might have other things she wanted to bring up too, but she disappeared. I don't know if I want to do this without her here, but, I wanted to, so I'm still concerned about the library and the bird safe windows, and I wanted to propose that we ask staff to, put up cameras and watch and keep track of, are we having bird strikes on the, especially on the east side of the building.
That is a whole lot of tape to walk.
No, their cameras now are motion capture.
And they
They just trigger when there's a motion. They record 10 seconds or 40
Okay.
seconds or whatever.
Okay, that's what
And then it's not like somebody sitting and watching all night tape.
Do you have any idea about what that costs and whether this should be a budget conversation that we're having next?
I just know as a homeowner that I've bought cameras, and I think you could probably put one on either end and do it for under $500-$600.
They're pretty cheap.
You have to have Wi-Fi, so you'd have to have some.
Right.
Oh, there she is.
So, and we don't,
Cameras,
and
library.
when is the proposal to put cameras in?
Oh, as soon as possible.
But do we have Wi-Fi?
Yeah, that's the.
Not just yet.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's
So-
probably ways to do Wi-Fi, but
What's the question?
the question is about the cameras on the
We do
library.
not currently have Wi-Fi at the site. We will have Wi-Fi at the site at a future date. We have not done all the IT improvements that are required. We don't have permanent power in order to start setting up all the systems, and you have to have consistent power once you do it, or you have to start over. So we've been working with the project manager to try and figure out when that is coming on board, but it still won't be Wi-Fi. It'll just be the server hookups. My guess is you're still a couple months from, if not more than a couple, probably closer to when we open the building, that you'll actually have Wi-Fi set up in the building.
Okay.
Well, I mean, the cameras these days are wireless. You don't have to have power. You charge them somewhere else and you bring them and put them up. But you do kind of have to have, well, I don't know the answer to that. I don't know that you have to have Wi-Fi. I think that'd be worth
I think you,
investigating.
I think you probably do.
For things like Nest and those types of cameras, you do, only because I have one, and whenever my Wi-Fi goes down, so does my camera. So I know that a lot of the easier to install systems do. We have hardwired systems, we have hardwired cameras here at the city, but again, those require you to have a permanent hookup, and they require you then to have a permanent feed, probably connected by cable, back to our infrastructure and back to the internet in order to get back to our police department.
And we're not planning on installing cameras at the library.
We're
as part of
not,
the permanent project.
if we did, I thought about that after we talked, the only place where we would ever do it would be on the parking, but because it's so transparent and light, I don't think that is the intention. I can go back and talk to Sue. Layla has left, so I can't ask her, but there isn't a lot of reason for it for this site.
Right. Yeah, no, I definitely, I see that, for sure. The front of it is gonna be pretty open, and we wouldn't be doing it necessarily for that, but, and I don't necessarily see this as an indefinite thing. I see this as, let's see if we have a problem or not, and we don't know if we have a problem
So
or
we
not.
do know that we've reduced strikes at public safety building by installing the stickers.
100%.
And I'd like to see us do that as a measure, because we've already experienced this issue and a resolution that has worked there.
And I can ask Damien to order those immediately.
Yeah, I mean, for spending $500, I'd rather actually spend it on prevention versus monitoring when we will have people who can monitor it. I mean, bird strikes is, it's gonna result in a dead bird. Nobody wants that. Nobody at the library staff wants that. We don't want that. I'd rather put money toward prevention now. If we're seeing, that there continues to be bird strikes, then we know, we're going to take additional measures.
And this does not require Wi-Fi. This is something we can do
Now,
because we have Windows now.
So we can do it now.
Correct.
Minimal cost.
And we have reached out to the Audubon. We have done some additional steps to try and find out what other mitigating options we have. Sue, our construction manager, has also done some work to try and figure out if there are some alternatives. Some of the alternatives she came up with, I'm not comfortable with. Things like placing the owls with a frequency in them that would deter birds because it's a wetland, I'm not comfortable with. So we negated that. For geese, there are some solutions that work better, but that's not my problem here. So she's continuing to look for us for solutions. If we get to the point where the stickers don't work, we can have additional conversations. But at the public safety building, we went from about 1 per month to 0 over a course of a year. So it has been a significant deterrent, and Damien feels pretty positive about how that experience has gone. My guess is that the shadow of the bird, the size of the bird that we place on the window is also going to have some effects. So we'll talk about what those would be. But if it doesn't work the first time, that might actually be the second step, is determining if we have the right bird species window stickers to make sure that there aren't other, the species that are hitting are actually getting the right deterrent. So we will still be monitoring any bird kills on the site for that reason, just to make sure that we know exactly what kind of bird it is if we do have the problem after that fact. Does that work?
Sounds good.
Okay.
Yeah, I guess.
Yeah.
It's really, I think a ball was dropped, and it's a shame that we're in this position.
Yeah.
I will just say that.
We brought it up way early.
Many times.
Yes.
Well, more than once. Not many times, but more than once. Yeah.
All right. So, Milwaukee's second annual Taste of Milwaukee event celebrating great craft beer, cider, music, local vendors, food, and art is this Saturday, July 20th, from 12 to 8 p.m. in the parking lot at Harrison Street and McLaughlin Boulevard. Tickets are available for purchase in advance for $15, which includes a commemorative glass plus 6 tasting tickets. Volunteers are also being sought who have their OLCC servers permits. If you're interested in volunteering, send an email to tasteofmilwaukee@gmail.com. Bring the family to enjoy a movie under the stars at NCPRD's Movie in the Park on Saturday, July 27th at the Wichita Center on King Road. Raiders of the Lost Ark will be shown beginning at dusk. Join the Ardenwald-Johnson Creek neighborhood at their second annual concerts at Ardenwald Park each Thursday in August at 7 p.m. The first concert will be held on Thursday, August 1st, and will include a National Night Out event at 6 p.m. prior to the concert. National Night Out will include public safety representatives from both Portland and Milwaukee, and will include lots of information and fun activities for the kids. The featured band is Cosmos Stream, a bluegrass trio. The next First Friday is August 2nd from 5 to 9 p.m. in downtown Milwaukee. The event is a great way to explore downtown. One event that you don't want to miss at First Friday is the Soul Box Project. Community members can make soul boxes at City Hall from 5 to 7 p.m., which will then be displayed at City Hall through the month of August. The Soul Box Project is a national community art project to raise awareness of gunfire victims. The North Clackamas Parks and Recreation District invite you to a concert and a movie at North Clackamas Park on Saturday, August 3rd. From 6:30 to 8 p.m., the Newport Nightingales will play 1920s jazz. At dusk, the movie will begin and feature The Incredibles 2. Milwaukee's first Carefree Sunday event presented by Moda Health is coming up on Sunday, August 4th from 11 a.m. to 4 p.m. on the east side of Milwaukee. Almost 4 miles of streets will be closed to cars for people to bike, walk, roll, and connect with the community. You can find the route map and activity area locations on the city's homepage or stop by the kiosk in front of City Hall or in the lobby to get a copy. The event is not possible without the help of dozens of volunteers, especially volunteers that help neighbors along the route. If you're interested in volunteering, please visit the city's homepage to learn more about all of the opportunities available and how to sign up, or call 503-786-7568. Join the Llewellyn neighborhood at their annual concert at Ball Michelle Park each Wednesday in August at 6:30 p.m. The first concert will be held on Wednesday, August 7th, featuring Remedy, a 5-piece rock performance dance band playing the best songs from the 70s, 80s, and 90s. For more information about each of the events mentioned, please visit the city's homepage at www.milwaukeeoregon.gov.
So Councilor Parks and I both worked at the farmer's market this past weekend at the city's booth, and I think there was a lot of excitement about Carefree Sunday. A lot of people picking up the map and stuff, but just to reiterate what the mayor just read, lots of volunteers are needed, and you could volunteer for a couple of hours and still, ride or walk the route. So think about volunteering for part of the day that day, and I'm sure we've all got our fingers crossed that the heat wave that we have yet to have is not coming that weekend. Yeah, so.
And I'll just put in another plug for the Leadership Academy, because applications, I believe, are due August 1st and
September 2nd.
September 2nd, good. So I can stop being so aggressive about that. But it is an opportunity for community members and people who have an interest in Milwaukee, who don't even necessarily live in Milwaukee, to learn more about how our city works. And it's really an effort to make it as easy as possible to engage in the democratic process.
And I guess it was worth mentioning too that we were talking about the library, and our library is being built, but there's definitely some fundraising ongoing to try and enhance some of the interior things in the library. And there's a library foundation that is soliciting donations, and anyone who's got $1,000 that they would like to have their family or some family member, noted in the library. There's if you donate by August 1st, you can be recognized on a donor wall in the new library. So if not everybody can do that, but if you're somebody who can, think about giving some money to make the library the best it can be.
Mr. Mayor, the city manager asked that you not adjourn until she returns to the room. And here she is.
Fine.
We're good. Okay. Never mind.
I move to adjourn.
Okay. It's been moved and seconded to adjourn. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. We are adjourned.